Let the record reflect that Commissioner Young is coming back into the chamber. Let the record reflect Commissioner Young and Vice Chair Rubin. There's a handshake. Thank you, gentlemen. Commissioners, one last item. Can we get that right into the record, please?
Sorry, that's on me. For the record, Andrea Gillis, Planning and Urban Design. Our last item on the agenda is the West Oak Cliff Area Plan. It's consideration of adoption of the West Oak Cliff Area Plan on property generally bounded by West Davis Street, Hampton Road, West 12th Street, Tyler Street, Vernon Avenue, Illinois Avenue on the south, Cockrell Hill Road, and Gilpin Road on the west. Staff recommendation is for approval with suggested additional changes in addition to any requested comments of the shared draft of the West Oak Cliff Area Plan by the City Plan Commission.
Thank you very much. Mr. King or any of our speakers still online? Did we wear them out? Yeah. Okay, let's begin with those. I know that one of our speakers is here. We'll begin with our speakers online and then we'll come to our speakers here.
Mr. Ford. I'm sorry, Mr. Ford. I'm going to move.
Mr. Ford, sir, no, you're in opposition. We're ready for your comments.
Oh, we've got a few more.
Okay.
I think they will.
They're coming back.
Mike Anglin is in.
Okay. Let's begin with Mr. Anglin. Former Plan Commissioner Mike Anglin. Good evening, sir.
Andrew Wallace is here.
Okay.
He is online.
Are you ready
Mr.
for my comment? Yes. Are you ready for my comment?
Yes, we can. Mr. Wallace, please.
Okay, sorry.
Good evening.
All right, good evening. Thanks for going through this slog. Let me begin my comment. My name is Andrew Wallace. I live at 1407 Melbourne Avenue in Elmwood. I would like to commend the city on the work they've put into WOCAP. I support the direction WOCAP nudges us, and I hope that it serves as a springboard to launch West Oak Cliff into the dense and walkable group of neighborhoods I know that we could be. My favorite part of the plan is the importance placed upon the need for missing middle housing. I would like to invite the committee to push the envelope and expand the range where these housing typologies can be built. Within WOCAP's recommendations and restrictions, only small pockets of our neighborhood would benefit from the added density, leaving the rest of us with the status quo. As Jane Jacobs said in her Death and Life of American Cities, when densities are too low, they frustrate city diversity instead of abetting it. While no one is calling for the Manhattanization of West Oak Cliff, every lot, no matter what size or their proximity to transit, should be allowed by right quadplexes. For those decrying loss of neighborhood character, that true character is made up by the people that live here, not the buildings that sit on the land. And for those decrying about the displacement, wouldn't it be better for 4 middle-income families to move into a single quadplex next door instead of displacing 4 low-income families all the way down the block because that have been in their house for decades but can no longer afford their property taxes?
Your time is up.
Okay, thank you. We're in a housing crisis. Act like it. Good evening.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for staying up with us. former Commissioner Mike Anglin, who I know since it's 11:39, he's really missing being on the Plan Commission. We can't hear you. Not yet. We can't hear you, Mr. Anglin. You're muted.
Does that work?
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Okay, I'm sorry. I haven't ever done the WebEx joining before. I'm usually there in person. But anyway, thank you. And I'll be very brief, and I'm thankful that this matter will be held until a future date because it's there's no way you could embrace another large plan like this. I serve and I'm saying this mainly because I may not be able to be here if it's an August reset. But I just wanted to say that I was chosen by Mayor Pro Tem West to be the chair of the task force. And I live in Oak Cliff. My name is Mike Anglin, by the way, 1414 West Colorado Boulevard. I live in Oak Cliff, lived here 32 years, but I do not live in the WOCAP area, in the West Oak Cliff area plan area. I believe that I was chosen because I knew something about area plans. I've been involved in several of them over the years, including my 8 years on the City Plan Commission. This is an extremely broad plan. It encompasses neighborhoods, Beverly Hills, The Dells, Jimtown, North Cliff, Ravinia Heights, Kessler Plaza, Sunset Hills, Hampton Hills.
Your time is up.
Holt Vernon, and South Winnetka. And so anyway, my role was simply to see that the process to support it being fair, open, and transparent. And I think we achieved that. But thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Albert Mata, you're next.
Hey, thank you. And I want to applaud the efforts of everyone that was there today, and to the city staff, the appointed officials, and the community members that have made it out. With that being said, I want to make a quick comment about WOCAP. There have been issues that we've discussed at the club committee regarding auto-centric businesses and the Tyler Vernon Station. But one of the issues that has kind of gotten on the radar is an issue on page 50. There you'll find a land use map. It was mentioned earlier during the briefing this morning that land use maps guide zoning. The issue I have here is that early on during the WOCAP planning process, an agreement was made to not make any land use recommendations to the western sides of West Oak Cliff, specifically in areas that did not have representation. If you pay attention to page 50, there are 7 areas highlighted with light blue color, labeled as commercial center corridors, with a defined definition in the map legend that also includes mentions of uses such as multifamily. I can tell you that currently no multifamily uses exist in the highlighted areas, and I'm afraid that this land use map, along with its associated definitions, map to land use recommendations for that area. Given that that part of the area plan, given that area plans expire authorized
Your time
hearing,
is up.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for staying up with us. Our next speaker, Mr. King.
Mr. Ford in opposition.
Mr. Ford, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Pat Ford. I live at 633 North Manus, which is adjacent to the Tyler Vernon Station. I'd also like to talk about the map on page 50. In the neighborhood mixed use part, it talks about townhomes and multifamily where appropriate. There was an attempt at an authorized hearing for the area north of Tyler Vernon, and that was fought against by the neighborhood and defeated. This kind of seems like a little bit of a backdoor way to get that back in, particularly when you jump over to page 123, which we heard earlier there was only 2% of these lots that would be potentially changed zoning. There's quite a lot on 123 that reflect that. And in contrast to what the first speaker said, we definitely need more housing, but these are functional neighborhoods with homeowners that live in them that are, it's an intact neighborhood. Please don't fix what works. Don't allow this guide to be a guide for future zoning and to upzone around our neighborhood.
Your
Thank you.
time is up.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
There are no more speakers.
Okay, I think Ms. Hopkins is here. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm Christine Hopkins. I'm here again. I've been an advocate with Somos Tejas, with Albert Mata in West Oak Cliff. And you'll hear from a lot more of our speakers on August 4th because we were told that the whole, issue would be delayed until then. But I want to put in a plug that I thought when CLUP moved this up to the CPC, one of the conditions was that it was expressed that there was significant opposition to the missing middle housing. And that I didn't hear that in the briefing earlier today or in the wording on page 122. And I'm hoping that I can hear that next time on August 4th, that there is that revision made and that it's not some opposition, it's significant opposition. And I do think CLUP was pretty clear about that they meant the opposition to be encapsulated as significant or meaningful and not just as some. So I hope to see that. And on the bus tour, I hope that we will be given a seat on the bus by someone who really knows the community, who's been doing outreach and advocacy, a Latino from West Oak Cliff.
Time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you for staying up. There may be questions for you. Any other speakers? No speakers. Yes,
I would
hear
like
somebody.
opportunity.
Who is that?
Valderas Giovanni.
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Do you have your camera on? Do you have your camera on, sir?
I don't see the option to turn on the camera.
We must be able to see you in order to hear from you, sir. Texas Opens Meetings Act requires us that we.
I understand that. I definitely understand it. I just can't see.
I got it moved over.
I'm sorry. Mr. King is trying to help you out here. Stand by 1 second.
Perfect.
There
Thank
you are. Okay, good evening.
I appreciate it. I've been here the whole time, and I appreciate you all's due effort to kind of hear everyone out, and I appreciate you all voting in favor of Elm Thicket North Park neighborhood. I mean, just really quickly, I mean, I get the sentiment that these neighborhoods are being targeted because they're majority minority and unorganized. And if we want to talk about affordable housing and that missing middle, we should really start concentrating and be really progressive. If we want to be progressive, is target white wealthy neighborhoods, right? As much as you target or the city targets minority neighborhoods for upzoning. That's progressive, right? Because there's an economic segregation that's happening. No one talks about Kessler Park, where Mike Anglin, the chair, lives. No one's talking about upzoning there. Why? Because it would never happen there, right? Because they are organized and they vote and they're afraid. City staff and the representation that represents them. Thank you.
Any other speakers?
No, sir.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions for any of our speakers? Very quick note of that. Questions for staff? Commissioner.
An incredibly
please.
quick question. Does the club recommendation include the word significant opposition? I'm pretty sure it does. I just want to confirm.
Daniel, you're there?
I'll have to go. I can double check that right this second. I'm almost certain that it does include the phrase significant opposition, but let me check that real fast.
Great. I think that was my intent to put that in there, so hopefully it's reflected in that document.
Okay, while he does that, Commissioner Young, you have a question?
Yes, for Ms. Pham. Could I ask you to explain to Ms. Hopkins what the rules will be on the bus tour for citizen representatives other than commissioners, as far as interacting with the commissioners? I just don't want there to be any confusion about that.
Right. From my understanding, bus tours is an opportunity for staff to just explain the area and for the commission, I'm sorry, it's like the commission to ask questions, but the commissioners and the members of the public are not allowed to speak to one another about the case.
Right. I just didn't want there to be expectations on that weren't going to be fulfilled. Thank you.
Thank you.
So to answer the Yeah, to answer the question, the way we have it recorded in our minutes, and we can go back and look at the club meeting recording, is we have it as additionally, I would like staff to add a note in the body of the document noting that there has been opposition by certain community members of the recommendation to permit missing middle housing in areas recommended by staff.
We are happy to take a look at it. We can absolutely take a look at that.
Thank you. Any other questions, commissioners? Commissioner Popkin.
Daniel, could you also include some data and stats on input that you received from community members that were in support, community members that weren't in support? I think it would be helpful to have more clarity on specific, I guess, just like data on what information was received. And I'm also aware that Somos Tejas did some independent polling and surveying. And I think it would be useful to include their results as well in this report, if possible. I know you're in touch with them.
This is speaking specifically to the Tyler Vernon Station area, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's the most contentious issue right now.
Yeah, we can provide that.
Any other questions? Yes, please.
I did have one more comment. God, it's late. I was thinking, although if we do have a bus tour, there's limited interaction allowed between the community, but there is no limit on the amount of emails, the length of emails that you can send that will be shared with the full commission. You can send your own video tour of the neighborhood. I think we're all very interested in learning about this very unique neighborhood of Dallas that's unlike many parts of Dallas. I welcome the opportunity to meet with anyone in the neighborhood who still has very strong opinions about what needs to be included to really make this a representation of the neighborhood. I know there's been lots of conversation and there are lots of individuals on all sides of the conversations that we've been having. But I want us to take plenty of time to make sure we've heard all sides of this before we make a motion on it. So I'm being very intentional about allowing everyone to speak and having multiple meetings so that folks can take time off work. I know this is a huge commitment, especially when our meetings last till midnight. So thank you all so much for your time, and I look forward to continuing the conversation. Thanks.
Thank you,
I would
Commissioner.
just like to add real fast. I went and checked the staff report, which has the official language from the motion, and it's off by a little in the slides. So the staff report that's in the docket, it does note it as significant opposition by some community members. Just wanted to be on the record with that.
Thank you for that clarity. I look forward to having more specific references to things like that at our next meeting. Appreciate your work on this, Daniel.
Thank you both. Any other questions, commissioners? Seeing none, Commissioner Popkin, do you have a motion?
I do. In the matter of the West Oak Cliff area plan, I make a motion that we hold the matter under advisement to our August 4th meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Popkin, for your motion. Commissioner Rubin for your second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, folks, for joining us this evening. Commissioners, no other matters, no appointments this week. Hopefully in 2 weeks from now, can I get a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Commissioner Rubin, for your motion. Commissioner Carpenter for your second. All those in favor, please say aye. We are adjourned at 11:53 p.m. Have a great evening. This is history.